Hello, I'm Sheryl, and welcome to Sleep Tight, Relax, a cozy bedtime podcast made especially for kids, but perfect for dreamers of all ages. Have you ever felt impatient when things don't go the way you planned? Tonight, we'll meet Twigga the giraffe and Wolfie the wolf, two stuffed animal friends who want to help their boy Bobby feel better after a disappointing day. Let's take a moment to settle in. Take a deep breath in through your nose and slowly let it out. Perfect. Now, let's begin. Twigga and Wolfie learn about patience. Bobby was still a little bit grumpy when his mom turned off the lights and said goodnight. Sure, he had done all his usual bedtime routine and had even done an especially good job brushing his teeth. He changed the motor in his toothbrush so it would buzz extra fast, so the whole thing would be over quicker. Bobby didn't really mind brushing his teeth, but he had other things he wanted to do, which was part of why he felt so frustrated today. He and Bernice had planned to plant some special flowers he'd been hybridizing in her backyard garden, but it had rained all day long. Bobby didn't mind getting muddy. In fact, he rather liked it, but his mother said it would make his clothes too messy. And to make matters worse, the parts for his latest robot invention still hadn't arrived in the mail. So he'd been stuck inside all afternoon doing what he called less than exciting stuff. At least his mother had let him skip the carrots at dinner, but that was probably because she knew what always happened when Bobby ate carrots. He made great big stinks. He was rather infamous for it at school. Despite his grumpiness, the steady sound of the rain outside had worked its magic, and it didn't take too long for Bobby to drift off to sleep. Wow, he certainly was grumpy today, Twigga said softly, as she carefully walked along the edge of the bed. I mean, I know he's getting a bit older and doesn't play with us as much, but he usually says goodnight at least. Wolfie did his usual after-sleep stretch, wiggling out from under the warm covers where he'd been tucked. Yeah, he was really disappointed he couldn't play with Bernice today, I think, Wolfie replied, shaking out his fluffy gray fur. Do you remember that time he took me out in the rain? Twigga asked, with a little shiver. His mother had to put me in the dryer afterwards, and I couldn't see straight for a whole week. Ah, I remember that, Wolfie chuckled. I had to lead you around everywhere, or else you'd bump into his desk and knock over his pencil cup. Twigga nodded, then gazed toward the window where raindrops were still sliding down the glass in the soft glow of the streetlight. Poor Bobby. I wish there was something we could do to help him feel better about tomorrow. Like what? Wolfie asked, tilting his head curiously. Well, Twigga said thoughtfully, remember how happy he gets when he finds his room nice and tidy in the morning? Sometimes he thinks his mom did it, but we both know it was really us organizing his books and putting his stinky socks in the hamper. Wolfie's eyes lit up. Oh, and what about that time we arranged his art supplies so perfectly that he found exactly the right colored pencil for his project without even looking? Exactly, Twigga said. If we could do something special, maybe organize his robot parts or arrange his plant seedlings by the window, he might wake up feeling less grumpy about the rain. "That's a wonderful idea," Wolfie said, already getting to his feet. "But we should probably start with—" He stopped mid-sentence and stared across the room. "Oh," Twigga said softly. "Oh my." "Wow," Wolfie added, his ears drooping slightly. Bobby's bedroom looked like a hurricane had swept through it. In his frustration about the rainy day, he'd pulled out almost every toy, book, and project he owned, looking for something, anything that might entertain him. Building blocks were scattered across the floor like a colorful obstacle course. His collection of robot parts was mixed up with his art supplies, which were tangled up with clean clothes his mother had asked him to put away. Books about dinosaurs, space exploration, and garden planning were stacked in wobbly towers that leaned this way and that. And right in the middle of it all, creating a particularly challenging maze between the bed and Bobby's desk, was the elaborate fort he had built out of couch cushions, blankets, and chairs. A fort he'd abandoned halfway through when he couldn't find the special flashlight that was supposed to go inside. "Well," Twigga said slowly, "I can see why his mother looked a little tired at bedtime." "How are we supposed to get across the room to help organize his things?" Wolfie wondered aloud. "I can barely see a path through all of this." Twigga stretched her long neck to get a better view over the chaos. "There has to be a way. Maybe if we're very careful and take our time—" "Take our time?" Wolfie interrupted, already feeling a familiar restlessness building up inside him. "But if we go slowly, we'll be at this all night. Bobby will wake up before we can finish helping him." "But if we rush and knock something over, we might wake him up. Or worse, make an even bigger mess," Twigga pointed out gently. Wolfie studied the obstacle course in front of them and felt his patience already starting to fray, just like Bobby's had during the long, rainy afternoon. He wanted to help his friend feel better, but everything seemed to be in the way. Wolfie quickly jumped off the bed, and Twigga carefully followed. "There has to be a faster way," he muttered, taking a step toward the edge of the blanket fort. "Maybe if I just push through here—" "Wolfie, wait!" Twigga started to say. But it was too late. Wolfie gave the blanket a tug, just a little one. But it was tucked under books, and when they tumbled, they knocked over a tower of blocks with a soft, rolling clatter. Click, clatter, roll. The blocks scattered in every direction, some rolling under Bobby's bed, others spinning across the floor like colorful wheels. One block bounced off Wolfie's nose. "Oh no," Twigga whispered, both of them freezing as they listened for any sound from Bobby. Fortunately, Bobby was a deep sleeper, especially on rainy nights. After a moment, his gentle breathing continued, unchanged. "See?" Wolfie said, trying to sound confident even though his heart was beating fast. "No problem. Now we have a bit more space to work with." But when he looked at the mess he'd just created, his confidence faded. The scattered blocks had actually made their path more complicated, not easier. Now there were small obstacles everywhere, like stepping stones they'd have to navigate around. "Wolfie," Twigga said gently. "Maybe we should think about this differently." "I can fix it," Wolfie insisted, stepping carefully over a red block. "I just need to find the right approach. Maybe if I crawl under the fort instead of going around?" He crouched low and started to squeeze under the edge of the blanket fort. It was dark under there, and he couldn't see very well, but he was determined to find a shortcut to Bobby's desk. Halfway underneath, Wolfie's fluffy tail got caught on something. When he tried to back out, he pulled whatever it was with him, which turned out to be Bobby's art supply box, tipping over and spilling colored pencils and markers across the floor. "This is taking forever," Wolfie grumbled, emerging from under the fort with his fur all ruffled. "At this rate, the sun will be up before we even reach the other side of the room." Twigga had been watching patiently, and now she stepped delicately around the art supplies, her long legs allowing her to step over most obstacles with ease. "You know, Wolfie, I think I can see a path if we go slowly and carefully." "Slowly?" Wolfie's ears dropped. "But that's the opposite of what we need to do." "Is it?" Twigga asked. She moved gracefully around the scattered art supplies, stepping delicately over colored pencils with her long legs. "Look how peaceful everything is when we take our time. Listen to the rain on the window." She lifted her head toward the sound of gentle drops pattering against the glass. "And look!" She gestured with her long neck toward the window across the room. "Even from here, you can see the raindrops making patterns as they slide down." Wolfie followed her gaze reluctantly. The streetlight outside cast a warm glow through the raindrops, creating tiny moving shadows on the wall. It was actually quite pretty. "I suppose it's not terrible," he admitted, "but we still need to help Bobby." "We will," Twigga assured him, "but maybe helping him doesn't have to be rushed. Maybe the best help comes from doing things thoughtfully." As if to prove her point, she carefully picked up one of the scattered colored pencils with her soft mouth and placed it gently back in the art box. Then another, and another. "Here," she said, "why don't you help me with this first? Then we can work our way across the room together." Wolfie felt his impatience bubbling up again. Picking up pencils one by one seemed like it would take hours. But when he looked at Twigga's calm, patient face, something inside him settled just a little. "Okay," he said, "but just for a few minutes." As they worked side by side, Wolfie found himself noticing things he'd missed before. The colored pencils weren't just scattered randomly. Some had rolled into a neat line against the baseboard, almost like they were organizing themselves. The markers had caps in colors that, when he looked at them just right, reminded him of a sunset. "Hey, Twigga," he said, pausing with a blue marker in his mouth. "Did you know that this blue is almost exactly the same color as the night sky, right before it gets completely dark?" "I noticed that," Twigga said with a small smile. "And did you see how the green ones match the leaves of Bobby's plant seedlings?" Wolfie looked over at the windowsill, where Bobby's little plants were growing in their small pots. In the soft streetlight, their leaves looked like tiny hands reaching toward the glass. "He's been taking such good care of them," Wolfie observed. "Even when he was grumpy today, he remembered to give them water." "That's true," Twigga agreed. "Bobby has a patient heart, even when he doesn't feel patient. They continued picking up the art supplies, and Wolfie found that his rushing feeling was slowly being replaced by something else, a kind of quiet satisfaction. Each pencil he returned to its place was a small gift to Bobby. Each marker was a way of showing he cared. "You know what?" Wolfie said as they finished with the art supplies. "This isn't so bad. I can actually see more of the room now." "And look," Twigga said, nodding toward the fort. "From here, I can see the path we need to take. If we go around the left side, step carefully over Bobby's slippers, and duck under that low-hanging basket, we can reach his desk without disturbing anything else." Wolfie looked at the path she'd outlined. It wasn't the fastest route, but it was clear and safe. That's actually a really good plan. Sometimes the best solutions come when we slow down enough to see them, Twigga said. As they made their careful way along the path Twigga had spotted, Wolfie found himself thinking about Bobby's day. His friend had been so eager to plant his flowers, so excited about his robot parts arriving. When things didn't go as planned, Bobby had felt the same rushing, frustrated feeling that Wolfie had been experiencing tonight. "Twigga," Wolfie said as they navigated around a particularly tricky corner, "do you think Bobby felt the way I've been feeling? Like everything was taking too long and nothing was working right?" "I think so," Twigga replied thoughtfully. "Sometimes when we want something very much, waiting feels almost impossible." "But the flowers will still be there tomorrow," Wolfie realized, "and his robot parts will come eventually. The good things don't disappear just because they don't happen right away." "Exactly," Twigga said. "And sometimes, while we're waiting, we discover other good things we didn't expect to find." They had reached Bobby's desk now, and Wolfie looked back at the path they'd traveled. The room looked different from this angle, not like a chaotic mess, but like a space full of Bobby's interests and dreams. The scattered books were about things he loved learning about. The half-built fort showed his creativity. Even the clothes on the floor were evidence of how many different activities he enjoyed. "I think I understand now," Wolfie said quietly. "We don't need to fix everything to help Bobby. We just need to show him that someone cares." "What did you have in mind?" Twigga asked. Wolfie looked at the plant seedlings on the windowsill, then at Bobby's desk where his gardening notebook lay open. "What if we arranged his seedlings so they catch the best morning light? And maybe we could open his notebook to the page where he drew his garden plan?" "That's perfect," Twigga said. "And I could arrange his robot parts in a neat row, so when the missing pieces arrive, he'll have everything ready to go." Working together, they made small, thoughtful changes to Bobby's space. Not rushing, not trying to fix everything, just adding little touches of care and organization. The rain continued its gentle rhythm against the window, and the streetlight cast everything in a warm, peaceful glow. "You know what, Twigga?" Wolfie said as they put the finishing touches on their work. "This was actually kind of fun." "The best adventures usually are," Twigga replied, "when we take time to enjoy them." With their careful work complete, Twigga and Wolfie made their way back across the room, stepping around the art supplies they'd organized and ducking under the fort that no longer seemed like such an obstacle. The path that they had felt impossible before felt manageable now, even pleasant. "Look at that," Wolfie said as they climbed back onto Bobby's bed. "We made it all the way across and back, and we actually helped Bobby too. And we discovered some beautiful things along the way," Twigga added, settling into her favorite spot near Bobby's pillow. "Did you see how his plant seedlings are already growing new leaves? They'll be perfect for planting once the rain stops." Wolfie curled up nearby, his earlier restlessness completely gone. "I think I understand now why Bobby felt so frustrated today. When we want something to happen right away, waiting feels almost impossible. But good things are still waiting for us, even when they take their time," Twigga said softly. "Tomorrow, when he wakes up," Wolfie whispered, "he'll see his seedlings arranged in the morning light and his robot parts ready and waiting. Maybe that will help him remember that good things are worth being patient for." "And maybe," Twigga said, listening to the gentle rain that was finally beginning to slow, "the sun will come out so he can play with Bernice after all." As Wolfie and Twigga settled in for the rest of the night, they both felt something they hadn't expected when their adventure began: a deep sense of contentment. Before long, even the stuffed animals had drifted into their own peaceful rest. Twigga and Wolfie and Bobby are all fast asleep. If you're still awake, take a moment to notice how cozy and safe you feel right now. Your soft pillow, your warm covers, the quiet of the night around you. Just like Twigga and Wolfie, you know how to be a good friend. And like them, you're learning that good things are worth waiting for. Tomorrow will bring its own possibilities. But right now, in this moment, you are calm, relaxed, and peaceful. Sleep tight.